Okay, I'll take questions if there are any.
What were these guys doing?
What were these guys doing? Well, the investigation revealed that they were down in the area of the observation platform, which was determined to be the area where the fire originated. And the investigation revealed that they did start a fire down there, and in some way, shape, or form, it got out of hand, and they immediately left the area, and at which time, obviously, the marsh caught on fire, and the rest has been certainly well documented and defined with the marsh fire.
The young man accused of setting the fire claims they were scooping off, loafing, what do they call it? They're hanging out and set a fire. Is there any indication there was any intent to cause damage?
Well, at this point, this is really not the time or place to discuss the actual elements of the case. What we will tell you is that all the evidence that was gathered by the detectives and by the fire investigators revealed that this, in fact, did meet the criteria for the law. The case was reviewed by a city prosecutor, and in her estimation, it certainly met the parameters and the elements of the charge of arson. I have given you a copy of the charge of arson, and there is a specific section that deals with this type of an environmental type of a problem when a fire started and it caused this kind of damage.
I didn't read over the arson part, but if I can ask, if I set a campfire and ignore it, and a forest fire or a marsh fire results, could that come under the heading of arson?
Well, if you knowingly start the fire and you cause or create a substantial risk of this occurring, and it does occur, you certainly, in my estimation, have met the elements of the crime.
Chief, I guess the question is, just to reiterate, was it malicious? These kids intentionally start this fire?
Well, the motivation is really not the concern at this point of the police department. What our concern is at this point is to review the facts as they are, review their accounts as they've given them to us as to what happened. They certainly, the elements certainly do point to the fact that they did start a fire, and that fire caused, was the result of starting the fire caused this major problem that we had in our community, which threatened, of course, the safety of our community.
How did you find these kids?
They were originally one of the more than 50 people that we had talked to or talked about or had identified as possible suspects. And, in the course of the investigation, like any investigation, you talk to a lot of people, you follow up a lot of leads, and as a result of that, a break comes along, and, the officers and the detectives as well as the firefighters, they followed this up. And in talking with them, we were able to come up with their account as they spelled it out, and that account was certainly viewed by our investigators as well as the prosecutor as an admission to starting the fire which caused this problem.
I think it's in your release that it says hanging out. One of the boys described it as that. Were they setting a fire to roast weenies, or maybe it wasn't that cold? I mean, what did they tell you was the reason for setting the fire?
Well, there was no specific reason why they started the fire. We do know this is an area that's open to the public, and this was during the daytime when people are certainly allowed to be there. And as a result of their starting this fire, of course, as you know, the marsh fire resulted.
Were these neighborhood kids?
The one man was from the general area, and the other man was from the Kirtland area.
He was living there at the time. I understand.
Yes,
in Nelsonville's now.
That's correct.
Is it true that one of these guys has been in school to be a forest ranger? Have you heard that?
I have heard that. Yes.
Which one is that?
You know what? I believe that's the man that gave the address. Let me just check here for a second. Selagovic. He was the one that's in school down in Nelsonville, Ohio.
Do they have any history of this?
No. There's no history.
Are those individuals aware of the potential of a large fire in that area?
That's a question I really can't answer that. I really don't know what they're aware of. I do know that that time of the year when there's a lot of vegetation and the people from ODNR could certainly comment on this better than I could, but the potential was always great that time of year until the marsh greens up, so to speak.
But you were one of the fire say something about, we were saying coming out that, there are a lot of marsh fires, none as big as this. But one of these days, somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get killed. It hasn't happened, at least at the time I've been here, but it's got to be in the back of your mind that besides the setback to the environment that you detailed, a fire's a fire. Fires burn and kill people.
Well, I guess that, I guess that concern is always there, and I would defer to the Deputy Chief Talcott to comment on the, as far as the potential with the fire system and how they would, in fact, protect the public in that kind of a situation.
You move the mic, please.
Well, okay.
1 second. Thank you.
Okay. I think that point is very well taken. The risk to the community certainly exists in the system. Disruption to the community also presents quite a risk to the firefighters. We involve the mutual aid system to obtain aid from, as I said, all of our surrounding communities and counties. And when you put that many people that far out of their district and put them to work in unfamiliar territory, you're putting them at an increased risk as opposed to their normal daily routine. The marsh is a target hazard for us. We have plans in place to deal with it and prioritize toward life safety and then property conservation, but it is a significant risk.
Excuse me, there was mention made of damage also to private property. I believe in the release it said both the public and private property. What private property was damaged?
We had a report of some exposure-type damage to a garage, some outbuildings in people's backyard, utility shed type of things, fences, and then in the park itself, the boardwalk. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the initial boardwalk was about 1,900 feet long, and the rebuilt one will be significantly shorter in the area of about 1,100 feet. And there was structural damage to the overlook tower in the area of the fire origin.
Chief Nolan, you mentioned a break in the case at one point. Can you describe kind of how it came together, at least in general terms? I mean, it had been a fairly long investigation. A lot of people were investigating. What was it that sort of broke the case?